All right, guys, so I want to talk about something that you may not have thought about, and I want to bring a new perspective to this. And it's this idea of why dhikr, why remembrance of Allah will help you lose weight. Now, I put that title there because I want to draw people in and I want to just kind of hook them in, like, oh, like, what's he going to talk about? And, you can judge me for that, whatever, like, I don't really care. The idea that I'm going for is still something that I've personally experienced in my life, and I want to show you what this can do for you and why this may be the missing link between your goals and where you are currently. Now, before I go into this, what you need to understand is that the fundamentals of fitness, of health, of nutrition, of activity, your daily steps, those are still there. I'm not saying you can just like lie in bed and just like, do a tasbih and then that will get you a six-pack abs. That's not what I'm saying here. The person I'm talking to, let me just frame it this way. The person I'm talking to right now, you're someone who has, been on this journey of like trying to lose weight or get lean or put on muscle or like get stronger in the gym. And you've been there for like 3 months, 6 months, even a year, and you've kind of seen some results. You're kind of getting to a point where like, okay, like I see something's working. I see myself changing. I see myself getting stronger, but there's this like identity misalignment that's kind of still there, where part of me is moving towards this new identity or like this new persona that I have, but a part of me is still holding me back, where I'm still the lazy person, the fat guy who like just like eats shawarma 6 times per week, or like goes out with his friends and eats out and orders out from Grubhub like anytime he can because he doesn't have time to cook or whatever. So there's like this push and pull that you're kind of working on, and you understand, you tell yourself this, like if I did not have this past identity holding me back, I could get to my goal like very quickly. It wouldn't be even be a question at that point. So where does dhikr come into this? Where does remembrance of Allah come into this? Now, I think this is going to be very insightful for you guys because virtually no one talks about this. No one links the spiritual with the physical. Almost no one does this because we live in a society where the spiritual is just like, it's, either just like disregarded completely. It's like, oh, that's not even a part. We don't even have souls. So like, people make that big neck argument. Or is this thing of like, oh, just do it on your own time. It's like, you do something when you have a free moment. It's like, do 100 istighfar when you feel like it. And, but the thing you really need to do is be in the gym and grind and, get your steps and all that kind of good stuff. So there's like, no one really connects the two things. So going back to this, what's holding you back? What's truly holding you back is your guilt. It's your sense of like, I'm not the person I need to be. I'm not aligned with the man Allah created me to be. And what dhikr does, and we're going to talk about two particular forms. What it does, remembering Allah, is putting the focus back to Allah, not on yourself. Because you have to understand, you're not doing anything here. Now that may come as a surprise of like, what do you mean I'm not doing anything? Like, I'm grinding in the gym, I'm doing all this, I'm making my own meals. Like, what are you talking about? Like, how can you say that? I say that because it's true. You're truly not doing anything. You're simply aligning yourself with the way Allah created you to be. Like, He's the one in charge of your biology. He's the one that's metabolizing your cell, your nutrients, making your cells do what they need to do. Your muscles contracting when you're in the gym, your lungs doing their function when you're like walking, all these different like processes in your body. Like, you don't control any of it. If Allah wanted, like, one of those organs could fail, then you'd be in a hospital bed very soon. May Allah protect us from that. But I'm just like talking about it like very realistically. So we have to establish that first, that you're truly not in charge of anything. What you are truly doing is merely taking the steps, merely doing the thing that you need to do, and He's the one running the process in the background. So when you do dhikr, what I'm going to talk about first is istighfar. What is istighfar? What is istighfar? It's seeking forgiveness from Allah. It's returning back to Allah and saying to Him that I made all these mistakes. I did not know that I was not supposed to abuse my body. That I was not supposed to eat out all these processed like seed oils and all this kind of stuff. I was not supposed to just lie in bed or like, watch Netflix for 3 hours every night. Like, you might not think of these as sins, but if they're making you a worse person, if they're making you undisciplined, if they're making you miss your prayers, if they're making you, less focused at work, like, is that not a sin? Like, I'm just posing the question. I'm not saying like you have to agree with me, but I'm just saying like, if it's making you a worse person, less than your ideal self, then maybe that is a sin. I don't know. We can discuss. We can talk about that. But what istighfar does, it starts purifying you, and it creates this environment where you become cleansed of the guilt, and you put yourself in a position where you forgive yourself. It's one thing for Allah to forgive us, and we hope for that. But a big part of why we hold ourselves back, why there's a past identity holding you back, is because you haven't forgiven yourself. You haven't said to yourself like, hey, Allah forgives all sins, but why am I still guilty, feeling guilty for all the mistakes I made, for all the weight I put on over the last like 2 or 3 years? Why can't I get over that? So when you take away the focus from yourself and put it back on Allah, like he creates this like mechanism where you start being forgiven, you start feeling lighter. You start feeling like, okay, like I'm not burdened by my past. I've been forgiven. Like you truly start feeling that, and I can attest to that. When you do istighfar enough, when you do it like 100 times, 300 times, 1,000 times every single day, even when you're doing it, you feel lighter. When you're done with it, you feel like, okay, like I did something that pleases Allah, it gains His forgiveness, and I can go about my day knowing that a good amount of my sins, maybe all of my sins, have been forgiven. So what do I need to worry about? I have a clean slate right now. I can go about my day not worrying about all the things I did over the past, year, 2 years, whatever. Like, you never know the extent to which Allah forgives you. You may do one thing, say one istighfar so sincerely, and in that moment, Allah forgives all of your sins. So that's the first thing. Your past identity is burdened by guilt. That's why, even though you're moving in the right direction, you're doing all these things, your identity is holding you back. It's telling you, hey, you're not that guy, man. You're not the guy who's supposed to be in shape. You're not the guy who's supposed to be putting on muscles. You're still the fat slob who used to binge eat, who used to go out anytime his friends would be like in town or whatever, just order off of Grubhub whenever he felt like it. You're still that guy, man. What do you think you're doing? And that's a trick of shaitan. Your nafs, your shaitan. All of these factors are like, they're kind of like, doubling down on you, and they're holding you down. What istighfar does, it elevates you. It helps you rise above all that noise, above all that guilt, and it creates this person who's free. And when you're free, you move freely. You just think about where you're going and what you're doing on a daily basis. So that's the first thing, istighfar. And what I would personally recommend is doing 1,000 every single day. Astaghfirullah. That's all you need to do. Whenever I do it, 6-7 minutes is all it takes me. 6-7 minutes to do something that purifies your day. If nothing else, if nothing else, it purifies your day. Helps you move forward with a clean conscience. So that'd be the first thing. The second thing is salawat upon the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Now, this is just taking purification, elevation to a whole other level. If you thought istighfar was doing a lot for you, salawat, they put you in a totally different state. Now, the reason I'm even hesitating to even get started on this, because there's just so much that goes into this. The scholars have talked about the benefits of salawat, of what it turns you into, just to such extent. It's such a expression of love. And some Muslims, I have to say this, like they have this wrong mentality around salawat. They think, why are you doing so much salawat? Shouldn't you focus be on Allah? What are you doing when you're saying salawat? Take any expression. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. What does it start with? It starts with Allahumma. Every time you're doing that, Allahumma, 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 Allahumma. So who are you calling out to? You're calling out to Allah. So don't think this is anything other than worship. And besides, Allah does it Himself. The angels do it. He tells us to do it. So what are you afraid of? Don't be afraid of like, oh, I'm doing something which is questionable. No, you're doing something which you are commanded to do. And the more you do it, the more you will feel connected to the Prophet ﷺ. Now, who was the Prophet ﷺ? Who was he? We have to start there. And I cannot do it justice. I don't think any Muslim could do it justice. So let's talk about one thing. He was the complete man, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was Kamal. He had Kamal, which is perfection. In everything you look at, pick up any seerah book, pick up any description of him. One thing that you will find is that he was perfectly balanced. He had all the right qualities of a human being. He was truly the perfect man, the perfect role model for anyone. No matter what your prejudice of Islam is, of the Prophet ﷺ is, if you truly and sincerely study his life, you truly try to understand who he is, then you'll have to admit that he is perfect. He is a perfect creation of Allah. And that as men who are trying to navigate ourselves in this life, and we don't have role models anymore. We don't have scholars anymore who can take us under their wing and show us what it means to be a proper man. We don't have good friends. We don't have any of this. I mean, if you do, you're truly blessed. But a lot of people, they just don't have that. They barely have any family to themselves. They barely have like functioning parents. Like, I mean, I'm so like, it's very unfortunate, but it's a sad reality. And I heard this statement from quite a number of scholars when I was kind of looking into salawat, is that when the more you do this, what salawat becomes is it becomes a guide, a leader for someone who doesn't have a guide, someone who doesn't have a mentor, a spiritual mentor. So, like it was so easy to talk about istighfar because it's like so like it makes sense, you know, forgiveness, you become purified. But salawat, let's just take this to a whole nother level. So I'm kind of trying to put this in words that will make it make sense to you guys. I'll put it this way. Salah ala Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What it does, it connects you to the person of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You become beloved to the beloved of Allah. And when you become beloved to him, to Allah, everything opens to you. What does it matter who you were before you became beloved to Allah? Think of the story of Umar. You know, he was a man that, you know, opposed Islam. He used to torture Muslims, and he was even on his way to go, you know, end the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But even during that time, the scholars talk about this, like even when he was doing all this, he was still beloved to Allah because Allah knew what his end was, because he would become, you know, almost the right-hand man of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So what it does, what salawat does, is it purifies you to a whole nother level. It refines your character. It refines who you are at your essence, because you're not just like someone who's like, you know, made to make money and just like, you know, be this ATM machine for your family, or like, you know, just supposed to make muscles and look good, and just like, you know, you're not just that. You have a destiny that is beyond this world. You're supposed to, you know, gain Allah's favor and go to paradise and truly fulfill your purpose as a human being. And the way to do that is to follow the example of the Prophet ﷺ. So when you connect yourself to him, when you send salawat upon him daily, every single day, and you're doing it, and you just start feeling this love and this appreciation and this longing for him, everything in your life becomes easy. You want to lose weight, you want to, you know, get in shape. Well, who was the strongest man? Who is the strongest man? It is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You know, there's many examples of him leading in battle, you know, wrestling, teaching the Sahaba how to wrestle. I mean, there's so many things that if we just want to look at the physicality of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I mean, that's a whole subject in and of itself. So of course, when you want to lose weight, when you want to get in shape, you're like, well, I'm doing this because my leader, the Prophet I follow, was in excellent shape. you look at the description of the Prophet ﷺ, and you see, you know, one of the things that they say is that his chest was in line with his belly. Can you say that about yourself? I couldn't say that about myself for a long time. So when I lost 40 pounds, I was like, okay, like I see what it means to, you know, for the Prophet ﷺ to have a well-proportioned body. So what I'm trying to say is that, guys, like, your journey to becoming a fitter Muslim, or to someone who prioritizes their health, it has to be infused with letting go of your past identity through istighfar. That's one thing. That's one thing, to let go of what's holding you back. But you also need something that propels you, that is almost acting as a sail, you know, on your ship, on where you're trying to go, and that's going to be the salawat. So you need both of those to go hand in hand. Because if you only have one, you know, say you only do a salawat, I mean, that alone forgives many sins. I even, you know, maybe I should reword this, but what I'm trying to say is that, guys, that you need both, because both of those will create the maximum effect, and will take you to where you need to go. So imagine you start doing this. You start doing 1,000 istighfar, you start doing 300 salawat on the Prophet. So it doesn't need to be any long formulation, it could be a very simple one. You'll notice within a very short amount of time that getting in shape, like, it's so easy. It's so easy because I'm doing it with a sense of purpose. So getting my steps in, eating clean, not staying up late, you know, training hard. It's so easy because I know why I'm doing it. It's so easy because I've let go of this past identity that was holding me back, like this past self that was sabotaging myself. And I'm working towards becoming closer to the example of the man I love, the man I admire, the man who showed me what it means to be a complete man, a true man. So that's it, guys. I mean, it's so, like, you might have tuned into this video like, hey, what's this guy gonna talk about? Is like, how's Dhikr gonna make me get in shape? I hope you understand it now. I hope you understand that it's not just physical. Our life is not just physical. It's not just the material things that we can touch and feel and name and describe. There's a whole side to us. There's a whole aspect of us which is just forgotten, even amongst Muslims. Like, we just focus on the material. We just focus on the things we can see. And that's doing our deen, that's doing our identity a huge disservice. So, guys, I hope you found this helpful. I hope you found this useful and you can actually start doing this. I mean, just to recap, 1,000 istighfar, 300 salawat, start doing that. I can personally tell you that, you know, those things have changed my life. I don't say that as a hyperbole or as an exaggeration or anything like that. I truly say that even on the days like when I'm done doing that, I feel so much more calm. I feel connected. I feel like my life has purpose, has a meaning. I know why I'm doing this. So getting in shape and running my business, doing YouTube videos becomes easy because I'm doing it because that's just who I am. So, guys, if you want to follow me on a daily basis, see what I'm doing, I'll link my Instagram in the description. But if you want to work with me and you've kind of been struggling with not just the physical, not just like the actual, you know, tangible steps you need to get in shape, but you're also lacking when it comes to your prayers or your Quran or things like that, you know, go to the link. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about what your exact struggles are, because when I work with my clients, it's not just, I don't tell them like, you know, the meal plan and the nutrition, like the workouts, like that's just one part of it. We also focus on your prayers. We focus on your Quran. We focus on all these different things that will help you on your journey to becoming not just a fitter Muslim, but a more complete, holistic Muslim. So if that's something you're interested in, go to the link. You can book a call with me. We can talk about it, inshallah. But I'll catch you guys very soon in the next video. Assalamu alaikum.